It was energetic. He confronted threats at home and abroad. He outlined his vision. He took Republicans to task for what he argued last night was their mix of hypocrisy and intransience. And what a night it was. Biden showing then, as he did again today, that he clearly has the stamina to walk around, to mix, to mingle, to speak, and to shut down the place like it was some kind of bar. He was not in any rush to leave what he clearly saw as a great night and a high point. During that State of the Union, we should note on substance, he ran through specifics on foreign policy, the rule of law, abortion rights, immigration, taxes, and spending.
And by the way, I noticed some of you strongly voted against it, or they're cheering on that money coming in. And if any of you don't want that money in your district, just let me know. The Border Patrol Union has endorsed this bill. The Federal Chamber of Commerce is, yeah. You're saying low. Look at the facts. I know you know how to read. Oh, no. You guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut? I kind of thought that's what your plan was. Well, that's good to hear. Now my predecessor, a former Republican president, tells Putin, quote, do whatever the hell you want. It's outrageous, it's dangerous, and it's unacceptable.
That was the tone we heard from the president last night. And I'm going to walk through exactly why this matters so much, because this was more than just a good speech, according to many. That would be today's just current standards. It was obviously a strong speech by Biden standards, because he is a person who, let's remember, is an often respectful traditionalist. That's part of his thing, and that has often meant his patriotic appeals to bipartisanship, his calm, almost stage whisper at times. But he's not always known for these political barn burners. That's what he did last night, and he doubled down on it, as we just saw moments ago with his speech in Pennsylvania on the campaign trail. Now, what about the longer historical standards of how State of the Union speeches work? Well, the Times notes today this was actually what Biden did, one of the most confrontational speeches that any president has offered from the House rostrum. And then for all the talk about Biden's age, he was clearly determined to dispel voter doubts. The Times mentioning that he's 81 and used this prominent platform of the election year to speak to what is, quote, likely the largest TV and internet audience he will address before November, to exhibit his stamina, his vitality, his capacity, and, yes, his umbrage. The Times going on to explain that defiant and feisty, Biden dispensed with the conventions of the format to directly take on former President Donald J. Trump and attempted to make this election a referendum on his predecessor, Trump, rather than himself, end quote. I read that to you because that is the New York Times taking this all into historical level. And there's only one caveat to their mention of this largest audience the president will see until November. That is true. That's why this matters so much more than a lot of the daily noise out of Washington. This impeachment vote for a cabinet member, this House vote, this failed vote, this re-vote. That's a lot of the Washington stuff, and it goes in and out of the news audience and in and out of the internet kind of political audience, and we are all involved in that. We care about that. But tens of millions of more Americans took in the speech last night. As for the largest possible audience, well, that could come at the debates. Those typically do draw more people than the State of the Union. But again, that's a shared stage. This was the president's stage last night. It wasn't just the New York Times. This speech, which you've now had time to absorb if you watched it live or watched clips online or watched news coverage today and watched other people kind of talk about it, this speech from this president, who has been attacked in so many different ways for so many different reasons, well, I could tell you, because we've checked, it has garnered markedly positive reaction from a whole range of people and professionals and journalists and media outlets, including even on Fox.
He addressed this age issue with his aggressive, feisty, ad-lib delivery. I think that helped him.
Words like fiery to describe it.
He was impassioned. He was pissed off.
A lot of people are talking about this being one of the finest moments of Joe Biden's presidency.
He clearly was basking in the moment.
I thought he was fabulous.
He reassured, I would imagine, at least on the stamina point, some of his detractors.
And he came to do a task. It seems like he executed on it.
I pictured Trump just going nuts watching it.
It's clear that Biden did what he needed to do last night to unify his party.
Yep. Scranton Joe showed up and fought.
The Republicans better get it together.
It was give 'em hell, Harry. meets Ronald Reagan's A City Shining Brightly on the Hill for All the World to See.
That's Joe Scarborough saying a little bit of the shining brightly, shine bright like a diamond, as Rihanna might put it. And that's how a lot of folks took this in. As for this age thing, let's be clear. It's not going to be wished away, and it's not going to melt away this year. These are two of the oldest people to ever run for president. It applies to both of them. One of them is the current president, the oldest ever, and the other, a former president running to be one of the oldest presidents ever. We don't typically have presidents in their 80s in a second term. If either of these men win, that's the situation. So it's not a Biden-specific thing, but it is part of what's been going on this year, and that applies to both of them. Moments ago, we heard the president joke about how people thought he wouldn't be around, I should say, for much longer. That's a sitting president trying to make light of it, or just saying, oh, you thought not only I might not win, you thought I might die soon. And he twisted that around to say, I've been counted out before. Don't count me out. Don't count out the American middle class. Don't count out the comeback that we are in the midst of. All of this is grist for the mill of politics. So Biden said that moments ago, and last night he was clear about both addressing and rebutting this narrative about his age.
When you get to be my age, certain things become clearer than ever. I know the American story. Again and again, I've seen the contest between competing forces in the battle for the soul of our nation. Hate, anger, revenge, retribution are the oldest of ideas. But you can't lead America with ancient ideas.
There you have it. And he referred to that again on the campaign stop today, talking about what's going on in the country. The President of the United States, moments ago, talking about the hate and the vitriol and the decline of any common facts or civic engagement. He referred to people giving, quote, FUs out there. We don't swear on the news, and neither did the president, but he refers to that civic decay and offers something else, a rebuttal to what he calls those ancient, atavistic, and fundamentally failed old ideas. And there's something interesting there. This obviously older, elderly gentleman, those are just the words. It's not an insult to refer to the truth. But this older man, with all of his experience, championing his newer ideas going towards the future, in contrast to another similarly older man who, according to the president, has ideas that would take us not only into our worst elements of the past, but into a future that the president argues we really don't want to live in. Donald Trump has a lot of legal issues, and we have two special guests to break this down, our legal experts, Melissa Murray and Andrew Weissman. We're going to get into why we're doing something special with both of you. But first, I would just want to give an update on some serious money that Donald Trump is forking over. We've heard a lot about, oh, will he do this? Will he follow that? It's not up to him. He owes a lot of money in that defamation case with E. Jean Carroll, and he posted a bond today, which is required to appeal. It's one of Trump's many bills and headaches. We've shown you this rough breakdown where you see the interest of the fraud case on the bottom, the fraud loss, the defamation case, which I just alluded to, and the bond cost for that. Now, he also needs a bond for his $500 million judgment in that fraud case. Trump's lawyers say he might have to sell some of his properties to pay the penalty, which means he is not an Elon Musk-level billionaire if he's a billionaire at all. You would not see someone with 100B having to sell anything to post bond. Trump still claims, though, that he's not concerned.
How close are you to securing the bond, or what you need for that?
I have a lot of money. I could do what I want to do.
So you're not
Never
worried?
used before.
You're not worried about the money?
I don't worry about anything. No, I don't worry about the money.
We are here with our guest, Professor Murray. He owes this money, and if you talk to people casually about it, they say, oh, nothing works. Is he ever going to be held accountable? Well, in civil cases, money is the only thing you're held accountable for, and it seems that this shows, in this case, in the New York Times, and eventually in the fraud case, when it's due, he has to pay even if he wants to appeal.
Yeah, that's a really important point. There's a lot of attention on the 4 criminal cases. Obviously, we wrote a book about the 4 criminal cases, but it's worth remembering that these civil cases are also real sources of accountability. He's going to be on the hook for serious financial penalties. He's posted bonds, as you say, And there are real consequences associated with that financial loss, as well as some of the other penalties, including limiting the degree to which he can do business in the state of New York from that case about the overstating of his assets to the New York state regulators. So these are forms of accountability. They're probably not what people are looking for in terms of accountability, but they're real and they have teeth and they stick.
Yeah, and this case is about something important, Andrew, which is that E. Jean Carroll decided over the course of her life to try to hold him accountable for what the court deemed was his liability for sexual assault and his lies about it. This is a civil case. There's no other thing here except for the money. So does it matter that he has to post this bond and that if he doesn't win the appeal, he'll be paying her out this much?
Well, there are two ways in which it matters. One is for the actual plaintiffs, whether it's E. Jean Carroll, who a jury has found was sexually assaulted and defamed repeatedly, and for the state of New York that has a judgment that found that there was a fraud and money that needs to be disgorged by Donald Trump. So that's sort of one level of accountability, and it's one thing that's important that those plaintiffs recover what they're owed, and that's been determined by judges and juries. The second is it raises issues about where Donald Trump is getting this money. We know from the first bond that was posted today, that's for about $90 million, but there still is another segment of about, as pointed out, about $450 million. So it's like one down, but a lot more to go. And the issue is he going to be beholden to somebody? We already know that somehow he got a bond from Chubb. And, you know, I'm interested in knowing, did somebody, for instance, have to co-sign? Was there somebody there, some individual there who he's beholden to? And the same thing with respect to
you say that because
bond.
you don't think his current financial condition would let him just easily get the bond?
I don't. And
you think he's like one of these kids who moves to Manhattan and has his parents co-sign the apartment?
So here's
why are you laughing?
Yeah, because you're funny.
You're funny.
You have students like that.
Well, not at NYU. No one's saying that.
You do have students like that at NYU who need their parents to get housing, is the point I'm making.
True. I mean, no one is saying that Donald Trump is a trustafarian, but I do think Andrew raises real concern.
Why not? He got a lot of money from his dad.
Well, he did get a lot of money from his dad.
I don't know that no one is saying that.
But we have a real point.
We have a
real point here.
So Andrew's making a good point. If he needs to get this money from someone, who the person is, whether he is beholden to them, if it's Chubb, what does the underwriting look like? Who is co-signed? What are the guarantors available to that particular entity in order to co-sign this? And again, there's this other $500 million bond that's going to have to come through for the fraud case. Who's going to underwrite that? So do we have someone who is on the ballot to be president who's going to be financially beholden to interests that we, the American public, do not know about?
Mm-hmm. And so just to be clear, he has to, in order to put up and get a bond, has to put up unencumbered assets, meaning money and assets that are not already pledged for something else. Now, we know that he has outstanding loans. You get loans by putting up those assets. So to get this $90 million bond from Chubb, the issue is, how did he get that? Is there a person there? What assets are being pledged? I am really interested in the co-signing of a bond because, stay with me, Elon Musk says, I didn't give him any money, but that doesn't mean he didn't sign a bond.
Right.
And so if you're Chubb, you might say, you know what, I'll give this, but I need a guarantor, to Melissa's point. So there's a lot more. This is like journalistic heaven, which is pushing on Trump to know what are the details here, and the public really does have a reason to know.